Michael Hunter and David Adeleye are the shortened list for Moses Itauma for December 13th. And we do know the surprising news that Moses has turned down the idea of fighting Frank Sanchez. Also added to that rejection list is Zhilei Zhang. And, 2 and 2. The two guys that was rejected versus the two guys that are still on the list. My counterpunch to that is it's real bizarre to me, because I don't want to just overstep myself with Moses Itauma, but you guys know me. I'm really hard on fighters, especially fighters that's supposed to be hungry. I feel the best thing about Moses is, or should I say was any young fighter should want all the smoke, right? They should want every fight that's given to them. It doesn't matter who it is, that it doesn't matter the style, it doesn't matter the pedigree, young, old, medium, primed, whatever. That is the type of fights that you would expect someone that's hungry to build their resume, not pad their resume, should fight. And guys like Frank Sanchez comes high on that list of expected fighters for Moses, because we want to see Moses Itauma. We want to see Moses Itauma in there with someone that shows us something with a pulse, that has the ability past fighters past their prime. You know what I mean? We want someone that's there ready for a fight. Someone 30, 31 years of age, not 34, 35 years old, and up. You don't want to see those type of fights, because we get burnt out on certain things, especially from the expectation of this guy's supposed to be the second coming. This guy's supposed to be the British Mike Tyson. This guy was supposed to be the new superstar in that region, right? And the blessing of anybody that young, you're supposed to get that, but we're not. Now we hear about Zhilei Zhang. And it's like, okay, anybody's seen Zhilei Zhang lately, Zhilei Zhang, along with his trainer, Sean George, they have been getting it in, bro. Zhilei Zhang is trying to slim down. He's like 42 years of age. You can't say he's too old and you don't gain anything, because Zhilei Zhang has dropped everybody that he's been in there with. And he's lost like 2 out of 4. You know what I'm saying? But he still was able to make an impact in any fight that he's been in. So even if he has half a tank going in or whatever, or a quarter of a tank, that quarter of a tank produces something in the fight that's worth remembering and worth mentioning. Okay. So he still gives you some sense of excitement and some sense of suspense, versus someone like Dillian White, which we haven't seen fight in a long time. You know what I mean? So if anybody was going to fight anybody, of worth, would be Zhilei Zhang over Dillian White. That's why people don't talk about him no more, because, he had an adverse finding, an issue with his drug test like 2 years ago. He tried to come back. Both of his fighters quit on him. Then he fights Moses Itauma and gets blasted out in 1 round. You know what I mean? So nobody's really stoked about that, because it's something that's expected based on his activity, right? And he's 36 years old, maybe 37 by now, right? But, the rejection of Frank Sanchez and Zhilei Zhang, both of these guys are dangerous, high-ranking fighters. And again, since Zeileh has been added to that list, it makes you wonder who in the hell is rejecting these fights. That's what I really want to know. Okay. And as far as the guys that are there, or that are remaining on the list, the short list of fighters, Michael Hunter and David Adeleye. Well, let's be real. Okay, because I see boxing very, very. It's easy to read boxing. Follow the lack of danger versus follow the money. Well, there's no money in really any of those fighters. But what's the easiest fight? What's the lowest risk fight if they were going to pull Moses back from these tough fights? Because that's the only reason that I can come up with. If Moses handlers decided, nah, let's pull Moses back. Let's ease off the pressure for this fighter. Let's ease up a bit, because he ain't beaten Mike Tyson's record, because Mike Tyson by May of this year was already a champion. So he didn't make that cutoff line. So he couldn't break the record. So there's no sense of pressuring him, which I can understand that. I've been telling them, why are you pressuring Moses Itauma to be something that he's not? That's Mike's legacy. That's not Moses' legacy. He doesn't necessarily have to be the youngest guy. Let's let him develop organically how he's supposed to, instead of comparing him to somebody that ain't did that in a very long time. And I know no one else has, but it doesn't matter at this point. That's Iron Mike Tyson, Kid Dynamite. That's the Tyson in the 80s. Okay, you don't supposed to be like him. Stop trying to be like other people and be like yourself. So maybe they did pull back a bit. And if they did, I would respect them. They're not going to say that, but I would respect them for doing that. But that would be the only reason why they are rejecting Zhilei Zhang and Frank Sanchez. Okay? Now, let's talk about the people that are still there. Since they're doing that, do you really think they're going to put him in there with someone like Michael Hunter, someone that's still dangerous, someone that may be fresh enough still to be a banana peel? You see what I mean? So you think they're really going to put Michael Hunter in there with Moses Itauma? I don't think so. I can read this book with my eyes closed. They're going to put David Adeleye in there with Moses Itauma. If it's anything else, I would be very, very surprised. Very surprised. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. But you guys tell me what you think of the short list of Moses Itauma and the added list on the rejection list. Now Zhilei Zhang. For Moses Itauma's opponents, of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace!